This section is going to be about the Axe effects. Well, actually, and the Kemper, but the Axe effects is what we're going to start with. I recorded a band who used this that I would like to show you in a second, but let's talk about the Axe effects for a second. It simulates a range of amps like a plug-in on steroids. The Axe effects is a really, it's kind of like a plug-in, but it's more complicated because of the way that it processes the signal, and we'll actually talk a little bit more about that in a bit. This is the reason I bought it. I wanted a bunch of really high quality amps without actually having to buy them all. The price of one Axe effects is much cheaper than buying a ton of amps. And what's really cool is you can easily take it with you if you are playing live. And I know a lot of people that are recording themselves are also in bands, so it makes sense. If you get a tone on there that you like, take it with you easily. If you have a computer, you have to deal with all these weird boxes that we're figure out how to get rid of buzzes every day and stuff like that. So that's why I bought it. Go to fractalaudio.com to learn more about it. Maybe pick one up. Actually, buying from them, from their website, is the cheapest way to buy it. Don't go to eBay. For some reason, they cost more. It blew my mind. Okay, so here is Nevada Rose. They're a brand new band, little baby band. You guys haven't heard of them, but I like the guys. They're cool guys, cool music. They don't have an album cover or anything yet, so still waiting on that. What do we got here? Yeah, this guitar tone is all Axe effects. I really like how it came out, and I'm going to go over in detail about this tone. Everything that you hear whenever I'm dealing with Sims, the Axe effects, whatever, it's going to be my impulse response, my cabinet that I got from the Mesa 412 that I'm sharing with everyone. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that song. All right, cool. So, Axe effects versus the Kemper. I get a lot of questions about this, and one of the main, I'll just say we'll go into detail in a second, but one of the main differences between these two, and there are a lot of differences, but the Axe effects goes through. For instance, this is the schematic diagram of an EVH 5150, and all these tiny little different points. And I'm not a guy that knows about a lot of this stuff, but they model every single circuit and tube and every component of the amp. It's like a three-dimensional model of the amp, basically. And you can mess with all this kind of stuff. You can basically build your own amps inside there, so it's very flexible. The Kemper, the way it works is it kind of takes a snapshot of a tone that you've already gotten. And on the Kemper and the Axe effects, you can share tones. If you like something, you can download them or whatever. So I have an Axe effects, and we're going to go into great detail about that and how it works and the things I really like about it. And but Keith has a Kemper, and I would really like for him to talk a bit about that, and he's going to do a demo in a little bit.
Sure.
How to get a tone.
Yeah, I get that question all the time as well, almost every day now. People say, Axe effects versus Kemper, which one's better, which one's this, which one's that. And to me, they're not two separate camps. They're kind of... They're two different things, that the end result is you get guitar tone out of either of them, of course, but the way that you achieve that can be different with both of them. So with the Kemper, basically you can either download amps that people have profiled in the studio or at home or wherever. Or if you have your own amps, you can set it up and, using the methods like you demonstrated earlier, you can actually profile that exact sound and reuse it, take it with you with the Kemper. And then, of course, you can still edit it, change it around. So it's to me, it's a little bit more personal, because you can get your exact sound that you want in the studio and actually save that. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
If you have a tone that you used on an album and you want to use it again live or something like that, you can do that. And of course, you can also do that with the Axe effects. If you record it in the studio with the Axe effects and you take it live, you have the same tone.
Right.
The difference is with the Axe effects, it's kind of a predetermined model. That's your starting point, and then you tweak it to whatever you want. It does have tone matching and stuff like that, but I think the Kemper is probably more robust when it comes to actually emulating the amp, the source amp.
Right.
We'll show it here in a little while, but it gets pretty much dead on. So
Yeah, and with the Axe effects is actually the way that I made my impulse response, and I want to share that with you guys after Keith. Well, actually, would now be a cool time to demo this, I think.
Yeah, well, just one quick thing that you pointed out before, and I don't actually have either of these things, but a lot of my friends do. I've had this conversation many times, considered buying one or both of these. So to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, one thing with the Kemper is because it clones amps, you need to have access to a way of getting those tones to begin with. You can download profiles, other people's profiles that they've made, but in the same way as an impulse response captures the preamp, the mic, and the cabinet, the Kemper, since it captures what you're playing through the amp, captures the pickup and guitar as well. And I guess, tell me what your experience is working with other people's profiles that you've downloaded.
Yeah, when you profile, a rig with the Kemper, it's basically capturing everything that went into that. So the pickup that you used, that all plays a part in the overall tone. So I found a lot of times, if I were to download someone else's profile and use it for myself at home, it doesn't always sound that great, because I'm using different pickups, different guitar, different tuning. There's a lot of little factors there. So, but you can tweak them to sound pretty good. But I think the optimal way to use the Kemper is if you have a rig already that you really like, an amp, and you get your sound dialed in and you can save that sound. That's the best way for me to use it. I've heard a lot of other people have really good results, downloading other people's tones and using them that way. But I think the best way to get a good tone out of it is to set up your own rig and then save that.
Yeah, and if you are in a studio and you get a lot of bands coming in, like I do, they're bringing in a bunch of different amps. So if you really like that, you can use it again.
Right.
So that's what's cool about the Kemper if you have that opportunity.
Whereas the Axe effects, again, it simulates amps from scratch, and it uses impulse response as a big part of that, but the impulse response does not include the guitar and the pickup.
Right.
So it's a little, that's a small point of difference, but from what I understand, it can make a pretty big difference in how usable those other people's profiles and
and
presets
another
are.
thing worth pointing out too is you can't profile complex effects, delays and reverbs and things like that. It won't do that.
Right.
It's basically just you could put a drive pedal in front of the amp and then profile that whole signal chain, but it won't do any complex effects or anything like that. So it's mainly just raw guitar sound out of a cabinet. But you can also profile modelers, things like that. You can use software sims. You can model software sims, just routing it through your interface.
Right.
So
Make yourself a Kemper pod farm profile.
yeah, that'd be sweet.
That's
Sound great.
weird. Okay, so can we show how to profile really quick?
Sure.
I find this very interesting, and I think the viewers will at home. It makes all these.
Yeah, it's like this little alien jumps through the microphone, and all of a sudden it stole the soul out of the amp.
And we're going to be using the DI from the song that we were just doing, From a Day to Remember. So you can, the song Dead and Buried, so you can hear something you're familiar
Yeah, and just
with.
for the sake of time, I mean, we'll just start right away. What you can do is, if you just want to play the DI, so we can get an idea of how it's going to sound first through the reference amp.
Okay. I'm going to mute the...
And that came through at home, I assume. They could hear the mic signal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you're mic'd up, right? You could...
No, they took it away from me. I was too loud or something, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, well, this is easy enough.
Okay, so basically on the Kemper, there's a profiling mode that you would switch to. And, you know, it would probably take a long time to go into all the specific details and settings that you can do. But basically, we're going to show you what it does. And we start with I just picked an amp that was in the Kemper already. That's our starting point. And then I switched into profile mode. And we're going to send the signal through the amp, which is going to be picked up by the mic. And the Kemper is actually going to store it. So here's that weird alien thing we're talking about.
We're at the ocean. It's beautiful.
It's a calm and soothing ocean breeze. Okay, so basically what that was is the Kemper sent its weird alien signal through the amp, and it caught all the frequencies through the mic and basically stole the soul out of the amp, which is awesome. Now what we can do is we can further refine the profile just by hitting the refine button, and then he's going to play the DI through it. And what that does is the Kemper will read it in real time and sort of adjust the parameters and the frequencies to get as close to the amp as possible. So we'll try that now. All right, so basically we just ran it through there. It reads it a little bit further with you know, the actual guitar tone to get it a little bit closer. I'm just going to save this one now. We'll go back here. I'm going to run the DI through it, and he's going to play it through the monitors, and you'll be able to hear that it got it pretty close.
So, yeah, just put that on standby. So I'll just run it through again.
Yep.
Okay. So we can hear it in here too. Whoops. Oh, my bad.
So there you go. That's basically it. You can spend more time and get it even closer than that. You know, spend more time getting your mic placement right, getting your amp settings right.
And you can even adjust the gain and stuff.
Yeah, at that point you can go back through, adjust your gain, all your EQs. You can add effects to it. You can even put stomp boxes, you know, virtual stomp boxes like the Tube Screamer in front, and really shape the tone that way. But basically, we just modeled this rig right here in, what, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool tool.
Very cool. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Keith.
Yeah.
So if you can see, we didn't talk about this, but this is you see the guitar, that's, you can actually play the guitar yourself while you're doing that.
Yeah, we just used a DI for the sake of saving time.
Right,
But
and you guys are familiar with what that sounded like through the amp and stuff.
yeah,
So,
I mean, sending the DI through it is basically the same thing as playing it. So
right.
usually when I profile amps, I actually play because it helps me to dial it in. And then when you refine, it's really important to go across the whole frequency range of the instrument you're using. So, you play high notes,
Really
low
low.
notes, hard palm mutes, soft notes, because you can get all the dynamics of the amp using that refine feature. If you, pretty much go over the whole spectrum of what you would normally be doing, it'll get that amp sounding really close.
Yeah, so this is what we have. The guitar, or DI, going into the Kemper, and then we also had the microphone plugged into the Kemper that was getting a signal from the amp. So that's how it gets the sound of the amp. You just have a microphone that's plugged straight into the Kemper, and then it goes out into into Pro Tools, and we listen to it, and that's basically it. Simple. Okay, let's talk about the axe again, because we're going to go over this in more detail here. Okay, so why is the Axe FX in a box and it's not just a plugin? There are actually a lot of reasons for that. One of the biggest advantages of having it in a box like that, and I'm sure it's probably the same with the Kemper, they have a lot of excellent preamps, inputs, and outputs. A lot of the circuits are gold plated. Like, they make sure that it's very low noise. And like I said earlier, we have all these direct boxes and things to get rid of all these buzzes and stuff, but you plug in straight through that and it's absolutely clean, and you can take it with you. If you're going to try to plug your computer in and use Amp Sim Live, you're going to have to deal with all that noise and try to figure out where it's coming from. And rig to rig, you're going to have different problems that you've never had to deal with. But we got one nice box where it's all just in there and that's it. Also, which this is not a bullet point, but the Axe FX has tons of insane effects built into it, and I can't wait to show you guys a really awesome atmospheric tone that I got with it using some pretty zany effects, but pretty cool result. The simulation quality, for instance, if you had this as a plugin on your computer, it would be eating up your CPU. There are a lot of other plugins that use outboard processing, like the, what is it that you have, the Universal Audio?
Yeah, the Universal Audio UAD stuff is a dedicated DSP card.
Exactly.
Pro Tools HD.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. HD, same thing.
Same idea. Basically, the Axe FX has a bunch of powerful, chips. I don't know what they are. A bunch of fancy chips in there that do the processing that would bring your computer to its knees. So that's a big part of the reason why it needs to be in a box,
And
not a plugin.
It's virtually, not exactly, but it's virtually zero latency, which that's something, if you're playing through an amp sim through your computer, you're going to be dealing with a bit of latency. And if you're playing through this, you're not really having to deal with that. So it has that dedicated processor, so it's super fast and it's not messing up your computer. You can use it with a laptop, even if it's not a very powerful computer. And like I said earlier, you can take it with you. Any tones that you dial in, you can take it with you to the stage.
Keith, I know that there are some people who use either the lunchbox Kemper or the rack mount one on the road. What have you heard about that?
Well, I actually own both. I have a rack-mounted one as well, and they're the same thing. There's no feature about them that are different from the lunchbox to the rack one. It's just the form factor of it. But you can get either of those with a power amp. So, if you wanted to use the Kemper Live, the power amp version might be a better option. I would also say if you're going to use a Kemper Live, the rack-mounted one is probably better, so you could put it in a case. The lunchbox one is, it's mobile, but, you can't put really a case on it. You know, I mean, I'm sure you could find one, but the rack mount one would be more convenient, I think, for that.
Definitely.
As far as durability goes, you know, do you hear good things, or I haven't talked to anyone about it?
I have a couple friends that toured with the lunchbox version, and they had some problems. You know, it's maybe not the most durable thing when it comes to, you know, throwing it in the back of a trailer, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's reliable and it's well built. You know, the axe effects, though, I think you could probably throw that thing off a building and it wouldn't hurt it, you know. So,
well, Andrew, on the way here, you had you put your axe effects in the hands of the TSA, which you know, we can, after this, maybe we can talk about whether that was a wise idea or not. But it survived, so
Yes.
there's that.
Yeah, I had to wrap it in a very thick yoga mat. And they gave me a huge piece of wood to put in my suitcase to help protect it, because I was scared. That thing has tones on it that I don't want to lose. But I have them backed up. The XFX comes with software, so you can easily put stuff on your computer and share it with a friend or an enemy.